From CTV News headquarters in Agincourt, Scarborough, you are watching Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Hello, I'm Nick Dixon. Welcome back to CP24's The Great Debate, which is being aired on CP24 and across our digital streaming sites and now YouTube. Here are the rules of the game. They're simple. If you've been watching the last couple of seasons, we have chosen a random topic for our guests to debate. In segment 1, each guest will argue their side of the topic, and then in segment 2, each guest will refute the other's opinions. When both debaters are finished, our in-studio panel, they will make their decision on who won and who moves on to the next matchup. Okay, so you want to know who's playing, who's coming in. Well, starting off in round 1 this morning, Tony Chapman is at his computer there checking his notes. From brand chatter to AI creator, is he a master debater? We'll find out. George Smitherman, political pugilist who never backs down, but will his parliamentary skills play out in studio? And there is TSN Radio's Matt Cauz. He hosts Gameplay, but he's not playing games on his return to the Great Debate. And then there is Adwoa Nsiah-Yeboah, of course, the returning champion, who is now, by the way, a 3-time contestant here on the Great Debate. She's convinced she'll also be the first repeat. Okay, how about this? These are the judges. Look at them. They are not messing around here. Every round features 2 debates, and these judges will be carefully watching all of the action as the debate proceeds. Every episode, again, features 2 rounds of debates. Each bracket will debate twice, and at the end of the debates, a winner will be determined by that 3-person panel. And with each debate, the brackets will then be whittled down until there is just one champion. All right, so here's a look at tonight's matchup. Let's meet the debaters. Check this out. This one should be epic. It's the battle of George Smitherman, a former Deputy Premier of Ontario, Health, Energy, Infrastructure. We had some good conversations back at Queen's Park in the day, George, and author and speaker, AI. He's a brand chatter man. Tony Chapman, a marketing and consumerism expert and co-founder of Chatter AI. So here is the topic, gentlemen, for round 1. Looking forward to this debate. People looking for a good job at a good salary could find their intelligence may not be the only trait that puts them at the top of the pay scale. This is according to researchers. A new study finds attractiveness along with confidence may help job seekers stand out to employers. Now, if you're blessed with both traits, you've hit the DNA jackpot, but most of us are lucky to have none. So if you can only be one, is it more beneficial to be beautiful or intelligent? Tony, you're arguing that beauty is better. You have 2 minutes to state your case.
Well, George, you got the short end of the stick, because clearly beauty is something that you've always professed. Every time I've seen you in a meeting, you're dressed to impress, you're dressed as a leader, impeccable style. Why? Because you're after people's attention. Why attention? It's the oxygen of human endeavor. You can't lead, market, sell, collaborate. You can't parent without people's attention. The problem is today, attention's at a deficit. We're living in the age of noise, too much and too many, chasing a finite amount of time. Age of cynicism, and more importantly, the age of creativity, where people are putting their best foot forward. So you've learned something that actually is being studied across the world. In fact, some of the major universities across sociology, philosophy, psychology, and leadership, even behavioral economics, talks about the power of beauty. Now, we're not going to like this because this is a human DNA, but here's the truth. When we see beautiful people, we think they're smarter, they have more charisma, they have more energy, and the proof is in the pudding. We elected a leader 10 years ago. Why? Because he had good-looking hair. Mark Carney shows up, and people go, well, that's the look of a leader. Across the board, when you see somebody that's beautiful, sad but true, we go, we're going to give them full marks. And research will show they even get hired with people that had better intelligence right beside them. 30 because seconds. People think that without question, when somebody's on that pedestal, they're smarter, they have more empathy, they have more looks. And that, my friend, is the case. And I just don't want to scare you, but when we come back in the rebuttal, I have 2 other points that are absolutely going to dismiss the argument about intelligence.
Tony Chapman kicking it off with beauty over brain. So George Smitherman, that means, of course, you're arguing that being smart is better. Let's hear your case.
Well, I'm so pleased to have a chance to participate in the Great Debate and on a subject that I have been training my whole life for. That is to make the case that it's better to be smart than beautiful. And I know that that was the case for me because even before I graduated high school, I'd been typecast as a politician, having played Leonid Brezhnev in a school play. I know for sure that it's better to be smart than beautiful because it's more efficient, because it enhances effort, and because it deals with expectations. On the efficiency front, I did the calculation because I can. 10 minutes a day, 5 days a week, extrapolated for a year equals greater efficiency by at least 1 week. That person with brains can then use that energy and align it with effort, because at the end of the day, while beauty may be an advantage to getting a job, merit is what keeps a job, and beauty is most frequently in decline. And that combination of efficiency and effort is what's going to put our brainiac ahead at the end of the day. And then they don't have to deal with all of the challenging expectations that come with decline in beauty. I never had that problem. People see me and they say, George, you look the same as you did 20 years ago. That's right, because I was big, bold, and bald, and that allowed me to focus on brain work, not beauty work. No 10 minutes in front of the mirror every day, no advantages associated with using Brill cream and dippity-doo to improve beauty, but rather the opportunity to be more efficient. I want to be with Einstein and with Tesla and with Alexander Graham Bell. Not lookers, but remembered for their brains.
Speaking of bells, that is the bell. Okay, really great start there. We're going to get to the rebuttals in a second, Tony. I know you're ready to go here. Our panel, though, we got to check in on them. They are tallying up the points that each contestant has accumulated, really discussing this, debating this on their own, kind of. So one round to go, though, of course, before they determine a winner. So quick break here. You're watching CP24's The Great Debate. Round one, that really got off to a great start. Round two, the rebuttals are up next here. Stick around. We'll be right back. I'm Nick Dixon, and thanks for tuning in to CP24's The Great Debate, which is being aired, of course, on CP24 and across our digital streaming sites, including YouTube now. Now, round two is an opportunity for each debater to refute the other's opinions. At the end of this 5-minute free-for-all round, our judges, that panel you just saw, will vote for a winner. So here is segment two. The rebuttals, gentlemen. Just a reminder, the topic here is it better to be beautiful or intelligent? George is arguing for brains over beauty. So, George, you're going to kick off the rebuttals.
Well, first is to concede the obvious point, which is, Tony, you're a rare beauty. And so too are our judges and our host. But at the end of the day, you're also an expert in AI. And I was very surprised in your initial commentary that all you had to do was talk about the superficiality that comes with being recognized for beauty rather than for brains. Isn't it the case that as AI becomes even more involved in our lives, including in matters of health, human resources, that those superficial matters of beauty are much more likely to give way to the algorithm that says we want brains and talent?
You know, George, it's incredible. You're feeding right into my argument. But first of all, I just want to point out that this is about intelligence versus beauty. You were talking a lot about efficiency and effectiveness, which I really didn't find material to the argument. But artificial intelligence is a great example. We've actually turned knowledge and intelligence into a commodity. It's within arm's reach of desire. I can ask ChatGPT anything. I would argue that now more than ever, if you're listening to this show, you should be thinking about, how do I build networking, collaboration? What kind of empathy do I need? How do I learn how to listen generously? Because the reality is, a scientist no longer matters. What matters is how we apply the science that's out there to the betterment of humanity. So to me, I would argue without question that AI has really rendered your arguments obsolete.
I'll say it a bit slower for you this time on the point about efficiency in the hopes that you can absorb it. Thing about it is, with that beautiful head of hair and your nice coif, you spent many, many minutes more today in preparation for the day than an efficient person like me who lacks the need to be addressing it would. And that's the point, is like 10 minutes a day, 5 days a week, extrapolated over the course of the year means that I have that much more to offer to the effort of applying my brains in favor of an outcome that is measurable. And I'm pretty sure amongst things that AI can do, it can measure data and it can figure out who's a producer and who's just a show pony.
You know, George, first of all, I'm sorry about the hair issue, because clearly it bothers you. But the reality is, I've never had a good hair day because I just wash and go. But here's the interesting thing about what you're pointing out. You're talking about beauty. How about the inner beauty? When you leave this planet, your last breath, who are you going to remember? The people that were smartest or the people that listened to you, that had empathy, that cared for you, that had a conversation with Mother Nature, a conversation with human nature? These are the people that matter to you. I'll give you a great example of that. Yoda, you'd say, that's not a beautiful creature. But the inner beauty of Yoda is what made him the most popular character in Star Wars. And I would argue that beauty is something up to the beholder. And if you just leave it on the surface, it really shows you that you're a very smart person, but you're not a person that actually digs into the head, the heart, and the hands.
The beauty that you spoke about in your opening 2 minutes was all about the superficiality of a person who looks beautiful,
but that was simply to set you up for this argument.
Getting more attention to be able to make progress. Now you're talking about inner beauty because you've disposed with your initial argument. The point of the matter is that my baldness is actually greater efficiency for me, both from a financial standpoint and also all that time that you have to spend in your hairstylist chair.
See, it's interesting that you're using efficiency and intelligence combined. I've never seen the two of them work well together, but I'll tell you something. I'm not against smart people and intelligent people, but the argument is attention matters most. First impressions in a world of noise is critical to it. But more importantly, the people that last. You talked about beauty disappearing. Audrey Hepburn disappeared. Sophia Loren. They stayed beautiful their entire life. George Clooney. Why? Because they have an inner soul. They're connected to humanity. And people that understand I have the ability to capture your attention and then give you a gift with it are the people that are absolutely who you want as your best friends, who you want as your partners in business, and more importantly, who you want leading the country.
Got about 30
it's
seconds,
funny that
George.
you can only conjure up for recollection people that maintain their beauty, a few famous movie stars. But what about all those people that you know, probably in your own circle, that are dealing every day with the diminishment of their looks, seeking to get back to their high school weight, or worried about those, wrinkles?
It's such a superficial thing to say. Beauty is something that grows every year, every day. If you're open to it, if you're open to humanity, that's where beauty is.
Gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. I really enjoyed that debate, the inner beauty, outer beauty, brains over beauty. That really got going here. I've never seen an opening round quite as feisty as that in the Great Debate. Here we are 3 seasons in. Really great one. Okay, so our judges, here they are. They've got their paddles ready. It looks like they've made a decision, but this was probably not an easy one. So judges, who was the greater debater of this round? So we've got 1 vote for George, 1 vote for Tony. This is the tie-breaking vote right here. 2 votes for George Smitherman. George Smitherman on the brains over beauty. George and Tony.
It's been a while since I won one, Tony.
Fantastic debate there. Okay, so George, you're the greater debater. You're going to be moving on to the semifinals. Of course, Tony, appreciate that. That was really, I didn't know who was going to take that one. You were watching CP24's The Great Debate. By the way, we have 2 more contestants and an exciting new topic to battle over coming up right after this here on The Great Debate on CP24 and YouTube. Episode 1 of Season 3 of CP24's The Great Debate is off to a wild start. This is being aired on CP24 and right across our digital streaming sites, including YouTube. Congratulations, George Smitherman, who won round 1 moments ago, taking on Tony Chapman, debating brains over beauty. George is on to the semifinals. You'll see that coming up here on The Great Debate. In the meantime, here's a look at our next matchup, and we'll bring up the contestants right now for you. The rules are simple here. Adwoa and Nsiah-Yeboah, a traffic specialist for News Talk 1010 and CP24, and Matt Cauz from TSN Radio 1050 from Gameplay. Here are the rules for this one. We've chosen a random topic for our guests to debate. Now, in segment 1, each guest gets to argue their side of the topic. Then in segment 2, each guest will refute the other's opinions. When both debaters are finished in our studio, our panel will then make their decision on who wins and who moves on to the next matchup. Keep in mind, both of these players are returning contestants, Adwoa being the returning champion. So they know what to do here. All right, the topic on this one, according to Merriam-Webster, a sandwich is 2 or more slices of bread or a split roll having a filling in between. Alternatively, the hot dog definition, according to Merriam-Webster, is a frankfurter with a typically mild flavor that is heated and usually served in a long split roll. So, big one here, is a hot dog a sandwich? Matt, you are arguing that a hot dog is a sandwich. You're nodding vigorously. State your case. 2 minutes.
Oh, this is an easy one, because first off, the term hot dog, it's kind of a violent term. I'm thinking of a dash hound, August, Walmart parking lot, kind of scary. So there's three things I want to talk about here. Let's get off emotion and let's just talk about facts. First, structurally. What is a hot dog? It is two pieces of bread with a filling. Maybe it's meat, maybe it's not. That is a structure. That is a sandwich. That is two pieces of bread with filling or meat in it. So that's the first thing. Structurally, they're the exact same. Second, geography. Where is that bread? It's on the top and it's on the bottom. Same thing with a bun with a hot dog. It's on both sides of it. Bun, bread, kind of the same thing. Finally, functional. Hot dog, sandwich, what are they? They're grab and go. You don't need a plate. You can hold it with your hand. It's usually consumed at lunchtime. This is one and the same. The sandwich is the hot dog. The hot dog is the sandwich. Sandwich is a hot dog. Now, if I was going to get emotional, I would, I don't know, maybe quote Romeo and Juliet. A rose by any other name would still smell just as sweet. It's kind of like a sandwich with a hot dog. And finally, history. As we all know, John Montague in the 1700s.
I remember.
Yes, the fourth Earl of Sandwich. That is actually true, unless Wikipedia is lying to me. 1762. He is gambling. He doesn't want to leave the gaming table. What does he do? He gets roast beef, and he asks him for two pieces of bread to be on top and the bottom. Thus, the sandwich was invented. And then, 130 years later, the Yale record. First time they mentioned the hot dog. 130-year head start. The sandwich is the only one.
Matt Cauz, passionate defense of a hot dog as a sandwich.
Yes.
Even taking a couple of extra seconds here. Okay, so Adwoa, you are, it's okay. Yep. We'll let that go, Matt. The judges are watching. Keep that in mind. So you're arguing, Adwoa, that a hot dog is not a sandwich. Let's hear why.
It is not a sandwich. I'm going to say held to the no. A hot dog is its own identity. It's its own identity. And you're talking about facts. We're going to talk about science. We love science here, don't we? When you think of a hot dog, according to science, lies perpendicular on a plate. The vertical orientation, and hence it isn't a sandwich. Because if it's lying, you're saying it's lying just on top. It's not. It does lie in a tubular stance, and then it has to be put, meat has to be in the middle of it. And when you think of that meat, and you use this quote of the Earl of Sandwich in 1762, what else do we call a hot dog? A Frankfurter. Do you know when a Frankfurter actually came to fruition? In Frankfurt, Germany, in 1467. So if we're talking about dates and time, the hot dog was before the actual sandwich. And if we're talking about the dictionary, we're talking about statistics, right? And you're talking about, oh, is a hot dog a sandwich a hot dog is and of by itself. When you think about the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, and it's world renowned, and we are going there, in 2015, they came out and said that a hot dog is by itself. It is not a sandwich. And then they did a national poll, and the poll in 2016 actually stated, that was a nationwide poll, that 63% of Americans and Canadians said a hot dog was not a sandwich.
Okay, the Sausage Council. I didn't know you were going to go there.
I was going there.
I didn't know we were going to go deep in the history. I mean, back to the 1400s. So, yeah, this is a great debate. Definitely off to a good start. Let's check in on the judges right now, because they're going over each point, each spherical reference to hot dog versus sandwich, the buns, the bread, how they're lying.
The buns.
Boy, there was a lot to consider there. You're watching CP24's The Great Debate. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I'm not even sure right now, but rebuttals are coming up next here on CP24's Great Debate. There's the bell, there's the name, it's right there in the title, Great Debate. You're watching it on CP24. Thanks for being here. And this, of course, is being aired on CP24 and across our digital streaming sites, including YouTube now. You guys are YouTube famous. All right, it's time for round two. This is the rebuttal. A reminder, the topic here in this hotly contested debate is all about hot dogs. Is it really a sandwich? Adwoa argues that the hot dog is not a sandwich. You have 5 minutes for the rebuttals. Adwoa, you kick off the rebuttal stage here.
Well, you quoted Merriam-Webster. You use Merriam-Webster as your source.
Actually, it's Wikipedia.
Well, you use Wikipedia.
Yes.
Well, Merriam-Webster was brought up, and Merriam-Webster was trolling the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council. I did research because I always do my research. Yeah. And they admitted earlier their earlier definition of a sausage was very separate from what a sandwich was. When the National Sausage Council came out and definitively said that a hot dog is not a sandwich, they decided in 2016 to change it and admitted that they trolled the National Sausage Council.
That's right. You can throw all these dates around.
Oh, yes, I can.
No, you can throw around all these dates that you want.
You can talk loud.
Is there anything?
You can talk loud, but it doesn't matter.
I'll talk quiet. I will
right.
talk quieter then for you.
Use your points.
Just make sure you listen. Who could be more biased than the Hot Dog and Sausage Council? Yes, I'm going to trust them.
Biased.
Also, you mentioned polls earlier, using that. You trust polls? If we trust polls, we thought Hillary Clinton was going to win the election. You're trusting polls and what seems to me some councils that are wildly biased here.
Not biased.
Also, I want to talk about philosophy for a quick moment here. You said identity. In this divided time that we are living in, when everyone is just going off and breaking off into little groups, little camps, and identify as a hot dog, I like to live in a world of inclusiveness, where we all come together, where the sandwich brings everyone together. I don't care if you're a panini or a wrap or what have you. You are a sandwich.
You're not.
You are absolutely a sandwich.
You're not.
And you're like, oh, the hot dog that's faced this way, geographically, it's different.
Matt,
it's
you're talking about, you're using a lot of your feelings, but
Yes.
you're not sticking to the facts.
I'll stick
and
with
the
the
facts of the argument is, if you look at the Oxford, Cambridge, and even Merriam-Webster, you know what they do?
Merriam-Webster uses, they print so many new terms
I just
out there.
can't talk over
You
because
use
you don't want to
that
hear
with
the facts.
Scrabble to
So
cheat.
if we're talking about these three sources, three different sources, they have sandwich and a hot dog, and they're both different. They're not together. They're not a subcontext. A hot dog is not. A hot dog with or without the bread is still a hot dog. You call it a Frankfurter, you can call it a sausage, but either way, it ends up being a hot dog. And we do know this. You are offending people that live and die by hot dogs. If you think a hot dog is a sandwich, then you must think cereal is soup, or that wine is juice. It's offensive.
It's offensive to me that you keep putting
You know what it is?
It is offensive that you put everything in different categories. This is why we are fighting. You are the living embodiment of Reddit. You are the living embodiment of ugly comments. I am bringing everyone together. I am using
science. You're bringing everybody together with your feelings.
The Yale record in 1898. The first time a hot dog was ever used was 1898. The sandwich had a 130-year head start.
Just because it wasn't English. So now you're going to be biased against language. You're biased against language.
I'm not biased against language.
Frankfurter.
You're biased against reality. Adwoa, deal with reality in reality's terms.
My reality is I literally have facts.
Don't fool yourself.
Facts and facts.
Your facts are from the Hot Dog Council. My God, you were bought and paid for by Big Sausage, by Big Hot Dog.
I have another stat.
Oscar Wiener, Oscar Meyer pays your salary.
Foods. 63% of Canadians resoundingly affirm that hot dogs are not sandwiches. Riddle me that, Sherlock. What are we doing?
What are we talking about?
What are we doing?
Who did that poll? I bet that was a big hot dog poll.
Was it a hot dog poll?
You go to sandwich right now.
They do more than hot dogs.
The Sandwich Council would give you a completely different statistic.
Maple Leaf Foods actually make sandwiches.
2 pieces of bread.
So they have no bias.
Filling in the middle.
They have no
you
bias.
You have for lunch.
These are Canadians. Are you just angry about the facts? So you just want to scream over me and talk about how you want to unite everybody?
Seems to me
You're
your
being
decibel level
very
has been pretty high as well.
No,
divisive. I'm bringing everyone into one home.
Together. There's National Hot Dog Day. It's the third Wednesday of July.
What is
of every month.
It's the third day of July because there's nothing going on then.
And so
really, you want to be associated with hot dogs?
What's going on November 3rd?
Disgusting hot dog eating contest.
What's going on November 3rd? Expert of the sandwiches. You don't know, but I do because I did my research. That is National Sandwich Day.
Yeah, John Montague, the fourth sandwich in 1762.
Joey Chestnut
Joey Chestnut is a disgusting man with sausage casings all over his gums. Shame on you.
Anthony Bourdain
Shame on you, Adwoa.
knows that it's a hot dog before his death.
I was waiting for a chef reference to come in there, and that's the first chef reference. All right, got no reservations.
Man loved a sandwich.
I have no reservations about how that debate went. That was pretty remarkable. Take a look at those judges. All right, so one's already made a decision. Two have made a decision. Well, Adwoa, she's won. A landslide there. Wow. Clearly fans of the sausage.
You're
Wow.
Sandwich agenda. Shame on you all.
I didn't come to play.
Moving on to the next round. Yet again, the defending champion. Boy, that was absolutely.
That was amazing.
I've never heard the word hot dog and sausage shouted so many times in front of me. No. That was something else. This is CP24's The Great Debate. Tune in tomorrow for more exciting debates. Adwoa's moving on to the semifinals. Matt, thanks for coming out, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. That was a great argument.
You were formidable.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
See you next time on CP24's The Great Debate. Oh, my gosh.